Here, I'll go.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Advocate, Spirit of Truth, present everywhere, and filling all things, treasure of blessings, bestower of life, come and dwell amongst us, cleanse us of all that defiles us, and no good one save our souls. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, both now and forever, to ages of ages. Amen. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. Give the blessing.
The blessing of the Lord be upon you with his grace and upon mankind, always, now and forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Son and
Thank
Holy
you.
Spirit. Amen.
Thank you so much. So I really hope that you had a very good week, and you're ready for rest. I'm sorry that your rest wouldn't start now. It will be postponed for another hour. I would like to ask you one question before we will continue with our topics. Last time we talked about if I'm remembering well, please help me to remember. We talk about beginning of the life, and we had different topics and different issue. So issue like abortion, artificial insemination, surrogate motherhood. We talk about embryo and using the embryo in different ways, and one of the way that how it was deliver the embryo through artificial insemination, also how we can use in therapeutic way this embryo, and who is the embryo is for us. Also we talk about frozen embryos and all ethical issue about what we can do and what will be eligible, what will be ethically to do with those embryos. So now let me share with you my screen, and okay, great. Let me share here. Okay. Okay, and we finish. We talk about also sex selection and prenatal diagnosis a little bit. We finish. We started to talk about cloning. I wanted to ask you. And please give me your honest answer, as honest as you can. And remember, you don't have any wrong answer here, at least so far, at this moment. Maybe when you will write your final paper, that it will be a little bit different. But I promise you ready for the I think you already received your final evaluation, the final papers. I hope that everyone can open the video, and based on the video is a case study for you. That video it was taken from the movie. I think the movie called it's Imagination Game, and it's about the Second War. And I ask you to do describe three points. First of all, definitely to describe what is the ethical issue in the movie. The second one, you have to choose two models. First, it will be the personalism model, that and the second, it will be any model that we discuss. It can be utilitarian model or constructualism or any other model, principialism, any model that you would like to choose, and describe this ethical conception and ethical evaluation of this movie based on these principles. That you will choose two models, and it has to be description of of this movie, of this ethical issue based on these two different models. And the last one, I promise you that it wouldn't be any wrong answer. I ask you to write down, to give me your own perspective, your own ethical scene, how you see this situation and what you think personally on your subjective way, what will be ethically correct to do. If you have any question about this paper, I think we will have some time in the end of the our lesson that you can ask any question regarding our last and final papers. But now I would like to ask you this honest question: who would like to be cloned? Who would like to have a clone? Please raise your hand or turn on your mic and tell me, but please honestly, that who would like to have a clone, who would like to be clonated, and if yes, why you would like to do it. And again, can be maybe only for the curiosity, what is this, maybe for something that some therapeutic principle, or I don't know, anything what you have in your mind. Who would like?
I can go.
Go.
And I'll say no, forget it. Because I saw a movie about someone that had a clone so he could stay home and the clone would go to work or things like this. And next thing you know, it kind of got out of control because then he wanted 2 clones. And then those clones started making more clones. After that, and next thing, there were 25 clones and they were all fighting and didn't get along. And so I have enough problems myself, not with 25 of me floating around here.
I like this. I like this. My wife also will like it, that she'll tell you that no, I have one husband. I don't need 25 or 2, even the same. Okay. Any other perspective?
All right. I will also jump on the no bandwagon. One, because as Father Roman and Father Mikola back here in Houston can probably attest, having one of me is a big enough hassle. More than one of me would just simply make things go out of control. And also with that, I will also make the argument of you will never have a 100% clone, because we also need to remember with that as humans we also have a soul as well. And so if you were to try to clone me, you would never have a true clone of me because the other body would have an entirely different soul. So yeah.
I like it. I like that conception. Okay. One more.
I'm gonna say no. Once again, by doing this, you're usurping the authority of God as creator, and you're taking him out of the picture. And we all know what happens when we try to take God out of the picture. We try to usurp that power for ourselves. What we think is power, it will never go right. And so I would say no.
Okay, thank you. I think most of our answers, it will be no. Okay, I will ask a little bit different question in 5-10 minutes. If anybody has the answer yes.
I don't have the answer yes, but in one of my bioethics classes, we had to learn about this one woman that wanted to get cloned or whatever. And she wanted it because she had no like partner or anything. She was just a single lady and she wanted to have an offspring. So I guess in like that kind of secular sense, like that could be a reason why like someone might want to do it. Like they don't have like a husband or they don't have a wife, but they want to have like a child because like it's already been said, like the clone is like another person, but people like the idea of having like an offspring, but I guess like not the idea of being married. So
This is interesting. I never heard about this perspective, but yeah, thank you so much, Ryan. Okay, let's continue. Cloning. We talked about this this topic a little bit, couple minutes last time. I wanted only to refresh something, some important moments. What really is cloning is? Yes, we have the human cloning refers to the asexual or agametic reproduction of the entire human organism in order to produce one or more copies which, from a genetic perspective, are substantially identical to the single original. And it's true because the process how we do these clones, really what we are doing, we take from the donor egg, we are taking the oocyte, and we take from this oocyte, we take the nuclear, and from the adult organism, we are taking the adult stem cell. And we will talk about stem cells today. We are taking this stem cell, and as we know, when its conception is happen, it's it's a oocyte and sperm come together, and they both has 23 chromosomes each. And in the end, it creates 46 chromosome in a nuclear. From this 46 chromosome, all this chromosome in chromosome order, it creates a new human being, new person. In this situation, when we are taking this adult stem cell, we are taking this nuclear from this adult stem cell, and this nuclear has already 46 chromosome. And we put this nuclear to this donor egg, to the oocyte. And this is how the life starts. And we have, in that moment, we have the conception itself, because it's a life, it's a conception itself when the 46 chromosomes complete, and they start to develop and multiply. And this is why it's happening, and this is how is clonation is happening. And we know in the story that it was successfully done for the sheep, for the animal. The sheep was cloned, Dolly, in 1990, I think six, something that year. About the human cloning in the beginning of 2002, I think, or 2004, one scientist, he said that he successfully cloned the person, the human, but eventually, and the doubt that he makes the story and it wasn't real. So far, we don't have any proof that anybody cloned make a clone and it was successful. Yes, the clonation of the human being, it's more complicated than clonation of the animal for different reason. And I definitely believe that the soul is one of the reason, but entire body, entire brain, and everything, all organism, it's so complicated that it's much difficult to do it. Even I think it's possible, eventually it's possible, but let's see different perspective why people would like to do this clonation. And cloning can be proposed for two different reasons. First, it's a reproduction. And you already you explained some theories why it's needed. It's like if somebody would like to have maybe some clone that who can work instead of them, or maybe maybe that like we have really a very wise person that it's so identical that maybe we would like even to clone this person to have this brain who can really develop and who can do the progress and move the progress. If we are thinking about Shakespeare, we are thinking about Shevchenko, we are thinking about different people that we can say that, oh, maybe if we will have more people like these people, we can move on with the progression, we can move on in the technology, wherever, etc., etc., on the arts. Or we can also, we can make a different explanation, why we can provide clones, and it will be really identical, but it will be, I agree that it will be physiologically identical, but the human being is not only physiologically perspective, it's also include a mental perspective and spiritual perspective. Another reason why we can provide a clone, it's medical therapy or research. And medical therapy and research, this is very interesting, and this proposal was debated so much in the different countries, because in this case we can use this clone to really provide a reproduction of some organs. Can you imagine yourself when you are struggle with some illness? For example, if it's a fourth stage of cancer, I don't know, if it's a prostate cancer, if it's leukemia, wherever cancer is, we can do these clones and provide from clones. We can provide from this embryo stem cells, we can provide the pluripotential stem cell that they have so big power, they are able to reproduce any organ in our organism. They can reproduce any tissue in our organism. They can really, they have this power that if they will be directed in a right way, they can reproduce, for example, the heart or lungs. And we know already when somebody is waiting for the organ transplantation, this list can be so long that it can take years before somebody will get to the point that they will receive this organ. And you know, I had some situation in the hospital when I had one person who's been waiting for I think he was waiting for the kidney. He has a kidney failure, and he was waiting for the kidney for a couple of years, and he was going through dialysis and different stuff. Eventually, when he was so close to the in the list to receive these kidneys, his health was so unstable, and physically medical team wasn't able to provide this transplantation of kidney, because he wasn't stable enough to provide this transplantation, because he will die on the table. And in this case, in this situation, organ wouldn't be provided to him, even that he is on the top of the list, because in this situation the organs will be lost. And can you imagine if somebody is waiting for the heart, if somebody is waiting for the lungs, any other organs that like it's so important for the life, and really it's a life or death situation. In this situation, you have an option. It's a theoretical, but it's an option to receive this, to do this clonation and receive this organ. That also from the different perspective, we can talk that this organ, it will be yours. It will be completely genetically identical to the organism. And because we know also that when somebody is going through transplantation of the organ, in this case, the person who received, for example, kidney has to take a lot of medicine for entire life, because organism sees this organ as not their own organ, and it's attacked. The immune system attacks this organ, and they have to suppress the immune system to take the immunosuppression medication to be able really to give this organ to function and provide what is needed to be provided. And in this situation, we have really, I would say, in general, in a big picture, we have very good intention, because in this situation, intention is to save the life. What will be the better intention to save the life? We also here we can see a different perspective, and like as I said already, somebody tried to make a point about the clonation from the human, and also somebody tried to make this point if we are taking even opposite from the different from, like, for example, from the animal, and they try also to bring the nuclear from the adult human stem cell, and be able to create the new human in this way. And it also creates some ethical issue and some situation that it's really unknown how it will react the organism, etc. From Dignitas Persona, we see the answer when the document is telling us the human cloning is intrinsically illicit, in that by taking the ethical negativity of techniques of artificial fertilization to their extreme. It seeks to give rise to a new human being without connection to the act of the reciprocal self-giving between the spouse, and more radically without any link to sexuality. And like, I wouldn't read entire statement, that like you can read for yourself. In this statement, and from the ethical perspective, we have a couple ethical issues in this situation. First, definitely, if we are talking about the successful cloning of the human being, we are talking about the identity. And you're right. What will be the identity? Identity of the person who has been cloned. And this clonation, this clone, it will be what will be the moral, not even the moral responsibility, but what will be the legal responsibility in this situation. And it will be the same fingerprint, it will be the same DNA, and it will be a lot. From another perspective, also, it's how it says in the document, definitely we don't have a unity of the marriage itself, of the marriage act and sexual act. And another point, it's a lot when we destroy the human being again, because this clone has to be provided in a laboratory, and doesn't matter if it will be for the reproductive purpose or for the therapeutic purpose, but extra embryos, it will be destroyed or eliminated. And in this conception, we have already, we have ethical judgment, but I would like to ask you from the same question as I asked you in the beginning, but from the different perspective. Can you imagine the situation? Can you imagine the situation when you have a child? And we know a child, it's the most important really in our life. We will do everything for our kids, and we will go beyond our kids, beyond what we can do, because like we love them to the death. And the question is, would you will accept clonation when the child is chronically terminally ill, and you have only one option, that you will do the clone for your child because of the therapeutic principle to have this stem cell, to use this stem cell to provide and save your child's life. This is, I think it's the most difficult question. And I really would like you to think about question, because most of the time arguments that rise about the clonation, it's raised on based on emotion and based on some emotional cases that we have in the world. If somebody, if one or two people would like to comment on that, please.
I can comment on that too. I would probably strongly consider it if I were in that position as a father with a ill child in that situation. Already in my life, my best friend has had 3 kidney transplants. He's just a couple years younger than me, so I've been with him for, since we were college age, 30-something years, dealing with that problem. And going through 3 separate transplants, and the kidneys last for a while and then reject, and him being on dialysis for years and years at a time. In both cases, that's difficult to deal with. My aunt likewise is a kidney recipient. Both of them had a hard time during COVID because of having a lowered immune system. It was much harder on them. It was much more dangerous on them. And also just, for stem cells as well. I've worked with people with spinal cord injuries in the past too. And I took care of one 60-year-old doctor who was an emergency room physician who was out riding his bike with his wife, and next thing hit by a car with a spinal cord injury, and all of a sudden was quadriplegic. Getting ready to retire. They had everything all worked out, and then bang, and he could not feed himself. He could not go to the bathroom by himself. He could, talk was about it. Couldn't get up, couldn't stand, move his arms, move his legs, anything. He could just move his head a little bit, and one arm a little bit too. And he was hopeful that stem cell research could help his condition. And I have a hard time saying no to something like that. All of a sudden, someone's life like that is extreme. To say, "Oh, tough shit," You at least you lived 60 good years or something. I mean, I wouldn't say that, but what do you tell somebody like that in those situations? It's difficult. And that's difficult too for being a religious, in a religious situation where you have to sometimes offer this kind of advice and guidance to people. I would have a very difficult time with that, I think.
And you're right, you're really right. And thank you for your comment that it's very difficult when we do have some situations like this. And from one point that we have ethical concern and we have ethical, how we see in moral action to reach some good effect, and how really it's very difficult to say that, like, oh, it's something immoral. Oh, you don't have to do this. Oh, you're not allowed to do this. And this is why I ask you the question also that if it will be your child, because it's much easier to say when it's the person that we don't know. And maybe that we have a connection, but it's not somebody who is so close. But from my experience, as I have 2 kids, 2 girls, 4 and 5 years old, it's very difficult when I only can imagine that if something will happen with them. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. If somebody would like to make another comment, that I think that we can do one more comment and we will continue.
Yeah, I'll do a quick one. As their father, it is my job to take care of their well-being, not just physically, but spiritually. It's my job to do everything I can to get them to heaven. And by doing this, you're going to put their salvation at risk. We should never fear death. all trials and tribulations come from the Lord. He gives us his life. He gives us his spirit. We have life. He takes it away. We pass away. We should not sit here and cling on to it, if, you know, and then put our salvation at risk just to cling on for a couple more years of life. Yes, it's hard to see your child going to go, but now I'm going to do something illicit to try for it to hang on. You know, if God wants my child, he's going to take it anyway. And then, you know, so now I just put my child's salvation at risk. I put mine at risk by going against his will again. So I would say no, because my most important thing is the well-being of my child. I'm talking about spiritually, you know.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for both your comments. And it's very, I like them, and it's very important what you said. We cannot minimize any aspect. We cannot minimize the emotional aspect, minimize the spiritual aspect, and of this very difficult situation. But what I wanted to say also, what will be, again, the decision, it will be made by the person. But another point that I wanted to mention, and how we are going to talk about also stem cell, do we have any other treatment that can be also helpful? I think in this kind of situation, it's very important to ask also those questions, because, okay, if we are going in this procedure and this procedure is A, B, C, D, do we have, and maybe ethically has ethical concern and all this stuff, but do we have any other treatment? What can be helpful? How we can support? And this, I think, and I believe in the ethical world, it's very important to find some balance. And like, it's hard, but I think it's important, and it can be balanced. Okay, so let's talk about stem cell itself. And also, before I will go to stem cell, I wanted to only to mention to you that the cloning itself as a reproductive method, even it has been illicit, or has been prohibited in almost every country in the world at this moment. And from this point, we are going to the next topic. It's a stem cell. Stem cell. Yes, let's Bohdan.
Yeah, I just have a short question regarding the clones. From point of view of biology, at the level of genes, clones are identical. That's true. Yes, they completely identical. What about the twins? Especially developed, definitely developed from one cell. They also have the exact set of genes.
Okay, twins can be developed in two different ways, and like we are talking about the pregnancy and the human twins, it can be developed from the one stem cell, one embryonic stem cell, and like it can be identical, and can be developed from like when a conception happen in two different oocyte. For example, if usually it's one oocyte is coming and can be reproductive, but if we have for some reason 2-3 oocyte is coming from the ovarian, that can also be the conception can happen in these 2-3, and they wouldn't be identical. When we're talking about identical twins, yes, it happens in a natural way, and they very close with each other in a physiological way. They're very close with each other, and also some research shows how much close they are in emotional, even, or spiritual way. They are not the same organism, but here you're right. It's very close how it happened in the clones. The difference is when we have this organism and the cell divided, that programs of the entire self, and it can go a little bit different, as we are taking already the entire nuclear from the adult stem cell, and we are putting in the oocyte, that it will be the identical. But we have more research about identical twins, that we have less research on the clones, because as we don't have as clones present. And from my point, that how it happens, that yes, in identical twins, it happened and divided by embryonic stem cells, where they are totipotential, they very similar. It's not identical, it's not an identical organism itself, how they develop in a different way. They have some difference, but like physiologically they're very close to each other, and also emotionally research shows how close they are emotionally as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's go to the stem cell. And stem cell is very beautiful, very good topic. Stem cell, that we all have stem cell, and we have as adult stem cell, as embryonical stem cell, as we've been embryon in one point of our life. But as we are adults now, we have more adult stem cell. What is stem cell is? Stem cell is cell that like the entire organism is built by millions of stem cells. And this stem cell is really keep us alive, keep us going, and depends of what kind of stem cells we do and how many stem cells we do have in our organism. They program to rebuild our tissue, rebuild our organs. It's like as we have, for example, some wounds, some cuts or something, that how it works, that this stem cell is rebuilt, that this wound is rebuilt, this tissue rebuilt the system. And it is very important for our organism, because without this stem cell, really our organism, it wouldn't function as it functions right now. The stem cell itself, we can differentiate about the potential of the stem cell. For example, we can say that we have totipotential stem cells, we have pluripotential stem cells, we have multipotential stem cells, and we can also go like a unipotential stem cell. But most important is totipotential, pluripotential, multipotential, how we will go today, and we will discuss them. Totipotential stem cell, it's when the conception, it's happened already, and sperm, it came to the oocyte and started to develop, start to multiply, and up to 8 cells that we have a morula, up to this 8 cell. Each of these 8 cells has totipotential. And what does this mean? That every of this cell that has totipotential can be developed in a new organism. They are most potential cells in the entire body, and like it happened only in the first couple days of embryo on the conception. After that, the organism lost this totipotential way, but it has pluripotential. Pluripotential, it's a potential when each of this cell can be developed to any of tissue, any of organs, any of part of our body. And this is what is really is most important. And most of the time, many of the scientists, they're talking about using totipotential stem cell, but most of the scientists, they are talking about using pluripotential stem cell. And this pluripotential stem cell can be also can be delivered from embryo. And in this case, we have to destroy the embryo to take this stem cell. Next one is pluripotential stem cell that we can pluripotential stem cell after the blastocyst. And like I will show you next slide, blastocyst. This is really the embryo, and the after 5 or 6 days of the development, that like we can see inner cell mass on the bottom. We can see blastocyst cavity, trophoblast, but really what is important here in a blastocyst, it's inner cell mass. This inner cell mass, these cells going to develop the organism, the body of the human. It will from this inner cell mass will be developed the baby, will develop the human being. And this inner cell mass, they have the pluripotential point. They are pluripotential, and they can be used in therapeutic purposes. But in this situation, the embryo has to be destroyed to stop this movement and stop this development in this stage to take this pluripotential stem cell. So as we're talking about also pluripotential stem cell, they can be found in a fetus, they can be found in different different part of the body, and they can be I will go to the next slide. I will come back to this one here, that you can see the multipotential, oligopotential, unipotential, that they can be found in the adult stem cell. What does this mean? That it can be different part of the body, that we can find cerebral, we can find in placenta, we can find in umbilical cord, etc. And this kind of cells we can take from the organism, and we don't need to destroy the organism itself, or we don't need to destroy the embryo. As I said, this is how we cultivate, and how we this is the way how we take the embryo stem cell, and we can really embryo stem cell, as we will multiply them in the laboratory. They can give the lot of lines and of the stem cell in a pluripotential way, that they can be used for the therapeutic principle, for the therapeutic way. But what is important, that as I said, the embryonic stem cell as a totipotential or pluripotential, they will destroy the embryo itself. They have to destroy the embryo itself, and in another cells, they can be delivered from the organisms, from the adult organism. And here we can see also some part that where we can take really some adult stem cell. Yes, the adult stem cell as a multipotential, or those who less potential, like oligopotent or unipotent, they can produce only some kind of tissue. They can replace only some kind. For example, they can replace the white cells in the blood only, or they can replace maybe the skin tissue, but they don't have this potential to replace any organ or any tissue in the organism. They are losing their potentials, but in this situation, with even that they lose the potential, in this situation, these stem cells can be produced and can be delivered without destroying the human life, without destroying the human being itself, and without destroying the embryo. As what will be the ethical issue, and can we really use the embryo stem cell? The ethical issue and the answer from the church, it will be no, because what will be the problem? As I said already, we are going to destroy the human embryo, and as we believe that the human embryo is a human person, it's a human body, it's a human, and we are going to destroy it for, if it will be the reason of the therapeutic reason or any other reason, but it will be unethical to do that. And every human individual has the right to live, and no evil can be done, or like no end can be delivered, or for the no good we can reach using any evil, in this case, destroying of the embryo. As we said that we cannot use, from the ethical perspective, we cannot use embryonic stem cell. What we can do? Do we have any ethical perspective, and what will be the answer for those people who are seeking for therapy, who are seeking for to be healed, and who are seeking really to be cured in the situation when they have some very strong illness, or even the illness that can destroy the life. Yes, in this situation, it's legally and ethically permissible is to use the adult stem cell, that like we can really have this stem cell from, as I said, different parts of organism, adult organism, umbilical cord. We can take from the blood when the fetus is already developed, and during the delivery, we can really deliver. We can take this stem cell, and we can froze, or we can like somehow to keep them that for the future if it's needed. And it's already we have already this practice in the world that people can keep this stem cell from the umbilical cord. Also, we can take, ethically is permissible, we can take the stem cell from the baby with the permission of the parents who passed naturally. Like if something happened, that it will happen, like it's happened, miscarriage, fetal demise, that it happened naturally, we can take this stem cell, because the intention of this to produce this stem cell, or to take this stem cell, it's not to destroy the embryo, to not destroy the human life, but is to that like, it's a natural process already happened, the death of the baby, we can take this stem cell. What is really another interesting point, and what I wanted to also to mention to you, in this situation, and when I was even as a student in Rome, in one of the Vatican University, I know that we had in that time, it was 9 years ago, we had a very big conference in Vatican about stem cell that I know the Vatican was really helping the research, and those scientists who try to deliver stem cell, adult stem cell. And at this point, most literature is showing us that adult stem cell has more successful treatment and has more success to treat different kind of illness than pluripotential stem cell, for example, delivered from the embryos. Because what happened with pluripotential stem cell, that in some point of multiplying, this stem cell also they deliver the cancer cells. And it was one of the research. I wouldn't say that like every research it shows this, but like it was a couple of researchers that shows that this pluripotential stem cells been multiplying, and in one point they started to produce the cancer stem cell. But what another ethically permitted, I would say, stuff that we can talk about turning point. We can talk about reprogramming the stem cell. What does this mean? When we do and this therapy has been started, and it was successfully showed that it works in 2006 by scientist Shaina Yamanaka and Takahashi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing wrong. But what they did, they took the adult stem cell and they reprogram them with a virus. They reprogram them to the pluripotential stem cell, and they show a successful, really very successful point that this stem cell can be used for in a therapeutic way. This is also in this situation, we don't have, it's not, doesn't create, this technique doesn't create any ethical issue in this situation, because it doesn't destroy any embryo, doesn't destroy the life of the human being. And also what it shows us that all this stem cell, adult stem cell that like we can take from the adult organism, they can be used and reprogrammed for even their own treatment, own therapy. And as we already mentioned, also the church, the document, especially Donum Dignitas Personae, shows us that we cannot, it will be unmoral and unethically to use embryonic stem cell. Embryonic stem cell is meaning totipotential and pluripotential stem cell itself, as they going to destroy the human life, they're going to destroy the embryo to receive this kind of stem cell. And I will go and I will I'm going to the next slide, and I would like, before our time will end, I would like also to mention some points about sterilization. Sterilization is also one of the ethical issue that I would also put in the big list of the ethical issue on the beginning of the life, because it also creates the situation when one, or even maybe in some cases two two people wouldn't be able for procreation. And sterilization, we can talk about sterilization in a different ways, and can be irreversible, temporal sterilization, therapeutic sterilization, or anti-procreative sterilization as contraceptive sterilization. Sterilization. Sterilization, we can also talk about sterilization for different purposes. So purposes can be private, social, or public. And it's interesting because we saw already in the world and in the history that these purposes has been used already in different ways. Private, that this kind of sterilization we have right now, and can be contraceptive purpose, or can be different purposes for the private sterilization, when a man or woman is coming and voluntary asking for the sterilization. It can be voluntary and can be non-voluntary. Also depends on the situation. Social, we can talk about eugenic sterilization or ritual sterilization. And eugenic sterilization is interesting. Again, I will come back to the time of the Second War and the Nazi, when we can see this kind of sterilization has been done for the people itself, for the community, for the nation, to really keep the nation clean as possible. For example, in this situation, we are talking about to eliminate every person who has any mental or physical problems, and the people, the parents who has this genetic problem, has this genetic code that can create this problem for the next generation, they will be sterilized. It can be mom or can be dad. They will be sterilized, and it will be for the social purposes. Public purposes also can be. We can talk about, for example, demographic purposes, when we have, for example, in some society more men than women, and we need to create the balance, and we need to create this situation that we need to keep, or like we need not even men and women, but in this situation how we had in the China, for example, when it was the time when Chinese family, they didn't have a permission to have more than one baby. Now I think it's like 2 babies, and in some point after the delivery of the first baby, the sterilization was being asked to do as one of the contraceptive way to keep the balance of the population of the territory. And also voluntary and not voluntary, that we talk voluntary, definitely all the situation that I mentioned already before. Non-voluntary sterilization, for example, we can talk about sterilization for the mental ill people, and for the minors, somebody who is incapacitated to make a decision, and to provide this this act as a voluntary act. And we can see some statistic that in a different countries in the Europe, how it has been done, and how many people has been sterilized, and also how we can see, like in Norway, sterilization was done for the economic reason, and Sweden some handicap and etc. We also this can create the disbalance of treatment, and also disbalance of the protection protection of the human rights and protection of the vulnerability of the some kind of population. For example, if we have the population who is handicapped, who has some emotional or even some who has some physical problems, and their rights definitely they don't have a right, or they don't have anybody who can protect their right. I have a couple more slides, but as our time is going to end, I would like you can we really talk about all this information already. It's like 2-3 slides that like you can even read by yourself. But I wanted to mention to you one ethical issue and case that I met. It happened recently. It happened probably like 5 or 6 months ago in my hospital, and I will end on this case. And I also would like to invite you to share your opinion about this case, what you think, and also if you have if you will have any other question. What was the case? We received an ethical committee. We received the case, and we received the proposal that came from the parents. They wanted to sterilize, even not sterilize that one. It was even they wanted to proceed with the procedure of castration. And how we know about the sterilization, that like in a different way, it can be sterilization. It can be how we said irreversible or temporal, and can be sterilization provided to the woman, to the man. In this case, it was a request that it will be chemical castration, that for the male who reach the age of 21 years, because he has a syndrome, Down syndrome, and he started to explore himself publicly, masturbating in the public. And what happened that this young person, he was in the hospital for some different reason, but he never been treated in, at least we didn't have information that time. He never been treated and hasn't been evaluated from behavioral health unit, from the mental unit. And he hasn't been never been asked to follow up with some psychologists, some psychiatrists. It was one point. The second point, he started to explore himself and masturbate on the public, and family asked for the chemical castration on him because they've been worried that he can do some harm to another people, because he's supposed to be in the community eventually, private community, and as the family itself wasn't able to fully take care of him, they sponsor communities that like here sometimes he can stay in that community, sometimes he can stay in the house, in home. And the family asked for this chemical castration because they've been worried that like he can harm somebody, sexually or physically harm somebody, because he started to explore himself. He never had any history of harming himself or other people, and the question, ethical consult came because the medical staff was uncomfortable to do this, as we didn't have any history of any harm, anything like this, first of all, and they haven't been really, they had some ethical dilemma to provide this chemical castration to this young person. What do you think? What will be your ethical suggestion or recommendation in this kind of situation?
Oh, for us, I personally would call it bunk and deny the request, at least until the behavior until he can be seen by a psychologist, and even then, I'm still inclined to say the reasoning is bunk and deny the request.
Okay. Some other thoughts, comments on that?
Aren't there a lot more side effects though to the drugs for chemical castration than just, you know, lack of sexual performance, or is it, or does that just inhibit someone's ability to perform, but not necessarily their desire to perform?
Okay.
I think that's a good question too, because well, just coming from it from a psychological perspective, sometimes people don't act on pure like you know, hormonal desire, but they act on just like experiential like thrill, I guess you can say. So like even if like they would perform this sort of sterilization, that might not stop any problem behaviors. So this case, I think the person would have to see some kind of like psychologist or something, because most of the time, I mean, even with neurosis like he's struggling with, it is more of a psychological issue rather than just some kind of physical issue. And even the fact that he has this disability doesn't mean that he wouldn't be able to, you know, get over some of these base behaviors. I think it's a big problem within our culture, actually, to say, oh, well, you know, this person has this or that, so they can never be like a full functioning person. And, you know, in a sense, that's right. But in another sense, it's just like, well, I think we just need to be a little more patient with these people to teach them right versus wrong.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that as the time is coming to the end, yes, I like your comments. And first of all, also to make an ethical statement that we can and we have to take in consideration also the law. And in this situation, that even to permit the chemical castration, it has to be the request, or even the request has to come from the parents. But it's not only the parents. Parent has to have the legal permission from the court to do so. But any other, I'm not going to the law. From the ethical standpoint, you mentioned a very good point about what will be different perspective, or what will be the different treatment that can help and will be less harmful. Because to come to some, even if we can recognize this a therapeutic act, we have to recognize that we don't have any other option. And in this situation, you're right. We can use, first of all, psychological treatment that can help and can balance, because this young person has the natural ability and natural point that like it has to show his sexuality. And like it's he doesn't know how to deal with this. It's a different point, but how we can treat this in a psychological perspective. First, how we can treat his sexuality and this acts and even the masturbation chemically, if we have some different kind of medication that can also help him to process and help his body to process this period of his life where his sexuality is so active. And also we don't have any statement of the any to be harmful. Yes, we have the statement that he can show himself, but in this situation also how we can help him to be more private maybe on some point or something we don't have, and we reject also the recommendation from the ethics committee. It was couple points, as you also mentioned, to follow up with psychiatrists, to see different kind of medication that can be helpful, to also see the legal perspective, and to use all possible ethically less harmful methods to help him before it's even we can discuss about chemical sterilization, chemical castration. Okay, I will finish on this moment, but I wanted to ask you only like 2 more minutes probably. If you have any question, if you have any comments, and if you have a question, any question for the final page, final papers.
I get well. I guess with the cloning, I would think the cloning process would render all the clones sterile by default. So can we really say that it was ever a successful clone if they can reproduce? It's kind of in the same vein as, say, two related animals manage to reproduce, but then the child is incapable of such.
What do you mean?
I mean, like do you think ever cloning will ever come to the point where you can clone and have sexual reproduction too, or do you think we'll never get there?
I'm sorry, I don't know if I understood correctly your question. If we can talk about the embryo, if it's a fully embryo without sexual reproduction, or
like
Are you trying to say that all clones are sterile?
yeah, aren't they?
You see, as we don't have so much research, I don't think so that all clones are sterile. No. And like sterilization, that I take also the moment of the sterilization, the aspect of sterilization as another ethical dilemma, another ethical question. And no, I wouldn't say that clones are sterile. At least I don't have, because like what is happening when like the human body is developing, really the cells, how they stem cell, how they develop, and how the reproductive system is being developed itself, that it doesn't permit us to say that clone will be sterile. No, I don't think so. I couldn't find this in any literature, in any research.
Has the church said anything about, I guess, cloning being immoral just because of how many attempts it took for like Dolly the sheep? Because didn't it take like 250 or something before they got like an actual sheep to survive?
The immorality of the cloning itself has a couple of points. First, destroying of the embryo. It's the most important, and yes, it's true that even that it comes from the most of the time in vitro process, and how the embryo, how this process it's supposed to start. It will destroy a lot of embryo. But even if the process will be successful from the first point, and we wouldn't lose any embryo the clonation itself we see as an ethical, because also we have a lot of ethical dilemma and ethical issue with identity. We have ethical issue about the same to having the same person, and regarding the law, regarding the different social and social economical statements. All this stuff we will take in consideration to say that itself cloning, it's unmoral and unethical, and it's not permitted. Okay, I think we have to stop that. I'm going to start the class with another group. Thank you so much. We have some good conversation, some good discussion today. I really thank you all for your time, and that you, after the long day, you find this time to have this class. We will have our last class tomorrow. And please, tomorrow we will talk about the end of the life issue. I will try to put everything like together, and to have some, also to give you some time for more questions. If you will have any question also about the final papers or from today, topics, please bring tomorrow. I will be more than happy to discuss that topics with you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Pani Yuri.
Thank you. Take care and have a good rest. Have a good night.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.